Tensei Shitara Slime Datta Ken, WN, Chapter 217. Shin's innermost thoughts were swirling in fury. She was angry at having been toyed with by Dagruel, as though she stood no chance whatsoever. Her rage, as she watched her elite guard fall one after another, her feelings of powerlessness and dismay, and her yearning towards the strong. She acknowledges all of these emotions, except envy, which has swelled up, and restrains her remaining emotions. This was unlike her past rampaging self, who simply faced her opposition with all her hatred, seeing them only as her enemy. She was now observing with her soul. Is it good or is it bad? That itself is not the point. What really important is whether she can suppress it or not. These swirling emotions within her were but a hindrance to Shin. But the thorn of envy, which was supposed to have disappeared, interferes with her thoughts regardless, as though stabbing at her heart. Shin has always thought of being the number one most important existence to Demon Lord Rimuru. But that is simply self-conceit. But it was also because she understood this emotion all too well, that it was so difficult to extinguish her envy towards other beings that were stronger than herself or showed greater promise. But even so, Shin has put into practice the act of accepting things for what they are. As per Rimuru's words, it is the concept of seeing the true nature of everything with your soul. As a result, though it didn't cause any drastic changes, Shin's true nature underwent a placid change. She now fully understands her own strength that is not swayed by her emotions, her own true worth. With the exception of the thorn of envy, all of Shin's remaining thoughts are now clearly unified. It was a mental change, not a physical one. Shin's evolution was occurring in a manner not visible to others. The battle with Dagruel began. Her soul understood right after that just how unfathomable and overpowering Dagruel really was. When they first met, she never did notice that hidden under his unassuming appearance lied a furious, raging soul. It can also be said that seeing her ideal, the ultimate complete form that she pursued, gave Shin the shivers. If she was to think about it calmly, the fact that the difference in power between herself and Dagruel was decisive, it was all too obvious that this wasn't a matter where she was able to stand against him or not. But even so, the word retreat does not exist in Shin's dictionary. Rimuru's strategy is flawless. That is how it must be. What that means is that so long as there are no further orders, she has no reason to fall back. That was what Shin thought. Purely believing in Rimuru, following her orders to the letter. In a sense, one could say she has stopped thinking. But to Shin, Rimuru's orders are absolute and is the only thing that mattered to her. That person won't blindly give orders without some form of insurance elsewhere. Then, until further orders are given, all I need is to do what I was ordered to. This was why Shin shows no fear in the face of death, and holds the lines with the resolve of not retreating. Rumina's cooperation was mostly unexpected. The prideful vampire princess vehemently hated putting herself at risk. With as much wisdom she had, she more than understood how impossible victory is at this point. Shin thought that Rumina should have already fled from this battlefield, if she already knew that much. This is really unexpected. If I was alone, I should have been taken out of the picture long ago. Demon Lord Ruminas, is my impression of her mistaken? Maybe that's also, such idle thoughts surfaced briefly, but Shin quickly shoved that to the back of her head. Shin doesn't have the elbow room for such thoughts, she fully understood that. At any rate, now that she has crossed swords with him, she could tell, that Dagruel still has something up his sleeves. If he were to really get serious, she would be swallowed up by that power all too easily, that was what it felt like to Shin. If so, her objective would be to resist as much as she possibly could, so as to properly understand the true essence of that power. With that firm resolve, Shin has continuously took to the challenge in an almost reckless manner. Against Dagruel, whose essence was similar to her own. Shin brandishes her blade, to carve into her own soul the form she pursues, which she sees in Dagruel. And so, the cycle repeats as Ruminas revives her. The world's time stopped before Shin's consciousness, light a world without color. Not yet. It's not over yet. She tried to open her mouth with the intention to roar out as such, but Shin's body showed no response. Her body was stopped where she was, unable to stand up. Rather, she was unable to even open her mouth. As this happened, the thorn of envy, which has been a nuisance to Shin's emotions for the longest time, the root that was lodged in her core, heart, which caused all her emotional problems, it felt as though it just went and disappeared. At the same time, White Frost Dragon Veltsard awakened the ultimate skill envious Lord Leviathan, but this was not something Shin knows of, and it wasn't something she would care about either. The important thing, was that the emotion that was hindering her is gone now, that was all. As expected of Rimuru-sama. To have even foresaw this happening. This was but Shin jumping to conclusions, but it was the truth to Shin. Elation and yearning filled Shin's heart, and what felt like an unbelievable amount of power welled out from within. Pure unbridled violence. The power to destroy. Irrelevant to good and evil, the tyrant's power. Individual, Shin undergo ability evolution, ultimate skill tyrannous Lord Susanoo was acquired. The voice of the world resounded. Shortly after, Shin's consciousness returned. She was in the colorless world still, but she has no problems with her cognizance. In place of sound, an individual's will is transmitted directly. Which meant, that words are not needed. In this frozen world, which is governed by its own set of special rules, Shin started to adapt immediately. Ultimate skill tyrannous Lord Susanoo, made that possible. The foundations of her skill evolution were more than sufficient. Much appreciated, Rimuru-sama. That, was Seal's handiwork, with her foresight of Shin's evolution. Even though she has only just obtained ultimate skill tyrannous Lord Susanoo, it easily became fully optimized, and was fitted onto Shin. For Shin, who has constantly been evolving her mental state, controlling this boisterous energy was all too easy. In fact, it was because this was possible, that she awakened to this ability. Mind over body. Thus, with the evolution of her mind, it also triggered Shin's racial awakening. She is now a combat spirit Oni, high-rank divine monster spirit, a being which specializes in physical combat. A spiritual entity that can infinitely regenerate its physical body. But, has attacks that are capable of destroying the opposition's soul. Shin has evolved into what can be called the natural enemy of spiritual life forms, energy creature, 1. She makes use of the energy borrowed from Feldera, to compensate for what she could not make up for herself. And, once again, Shin recreates her own body into a body that is optimized and purely made for combat. She notices at this moment, that she has been unconsciously borrowing power from Feldera. Her consciousness, which felt like it was mostly instinctual and roaming within a fog, now felt refreshed as though under a clear blue sky. Shin has now fully awakened. Shin takes her stance, with her beloved katana true, Hercules edge too. I have kept you waiting. However, as you hoped for, I shall give you some amusement. She speaks to Dagruel, in a polite manner. In this frozen world, Dagruel and Shin's true battle begins. A flash of blades crossing. That was but a metaphor, as such phenomena do not happen in this world without light. But, this was the only appropriate way to describe what was happening, as Shin swings assault Dagruel. Hardening his body beyond the hardness of diamonds, Dagruel receives the attack with his two arms. But, due to taking the impact from the katana swung from an overhead stance, both of Dagruel's knees sunk into the ground. Dagruel opened his eyes wide. In this stopped world, the air won't get vibrated. As there is no medium now, energy transmissions do not happen. It is now a situation where one would need to push their way through the molecules with their own bodies. Which also meant, it is also impossible to gain momentum from kicking off the ground. Impacts generated by the force directly dig into the earth, which results in what just happened to Dagruel at this moment. The laws of physics do not apply in this frozen world. As for the laws of magic, it is impossible to activate almost every known type. It's obvious, that combat in such special circumstances will differ from the norm. Dagruel clicks his tongue, releasing excessive amounts of his power, and pushed back Shin's katana. Inversely, this time it was Shin whose legs were caught in the ground. The two continued exchanges between blade and fist, and slowly both sides naturally grasped the nature of how combat flows. Dagruel followed his instincts, while Shin learned from the situations that happened. The battle intensified. It wasn't just the appearance that looked intense, the invisible battle between abilities was taken into account too. Dagruel had no ultimate skill of his own. His existence alone can be called ultimate, as a being who is almost equal to the true dragons. His fists alone could cause destruction on levels that warp the laws of physics. The special vibrations caused would interfere with the earth and the atmosphere, resulting in storms of destruction. But, even such special powers, held no meaning in this frozen world. Shin, I have no clue how long that sister of mine is going to stop time. What's definite, is that your chance at victory is only possible within this frozen world, that alone. When time flows, Dagruel's powers will come into effect. Keep that in mind. Feldera's words were delivered telepathically to Shin. My gratitude for the advice. Feldera-sama. Shin gave her thanks, but in truth she did not understand the real meaning of those words. But, on an instinctual level she recognized the danger. As of now, the destructive vibrations in Dagruel's fists only affect the area that it hits. That was the reason how Shin is battling on equal footing with Dagruel, as she is responding on that assumption. But, it was very likely what Feldera's words meant, was that Dagruel's attacks are able to connect in a wider area when time is not stopped, that much can be assumed. This wasn't anything conclusive unless she took a hit for confirmation, but the danger wasn't hard to imagine. That's not something anybody would want to test out. With the intent of a short decisive battle, Shin increased her swinging speed one more level. Dagruel with his hardened body, repels Shin's katana with his bare hands. Ho, having exchanged this many blows with me, not even a chip on that blade. Conversely, Dagruel commended Shin's katana which was unblemished. His praise was not empty, and Shin also felt that he meant what he said. Naturally. This beloved katana of mine, was given to me from Rimuru-sama. I pour my heart and soul into it every day, you can call it another part of my body at this point. Just as Shin said, she polishes her katana daily, and it has become accustomed to her aura. Calling it a part of her body is no exaggeration, as true, Hercules' Edge also evolved into the god class together with Shin's evolution. It was because of this that it is immune to Dagruel's weapon destruction ability, but this should be called good luck for Shin. And, what was really lucky, would be the similitude of their abilities. Shin's ability, which could be called the natural enemy of spiritual entities, minus break. Activating the effects through her normal attacks with her katana, she plunders the target's energy. The effect activates even if the attack is blocked. In addition, along with the fact that she is capable of converting the energy borrowed from Feldera into her own, she is able to make use of any energy that is plundered. Though she has an upper limit to her own energy, she can just use her opponent's energy to cover for her own losses. It can be said this ability further exemplified Shin's immortal status. And finally, as per the name of the tyrant, being able to control any kind of riotous energy, is what should be said to be the true worth of Shin's ability. For Shin to be able to even properly exist before a being such as Dagruel who is a mass of energy, is precisely thanks to the abilities of the awakened tyrannous Lord Susanoo. In comparison, Dagruel's very existence is a supernatural phenomena. Hardened defense weapon destruction existence destruction magic immunity neutralize attribute ignore defense these are but some of the abilities he wields as an ultimate living being. Under normal circumstances, engaging in melee combat with Dagruel is utterly suicidal. Transcending physical and magical elements, an existence likened to a god of destruction. That was Dagruel. But, the ability tyrannous Lord Susanoo that Shin awakened to, gave Shin the means to stand against Dagruel. Which meant, the ability is capable of something similar, to Dagruel. The ability of unique skill cook, to bring a desired result of the user has evolved into complete manipulation over the law of causality. This isn't something on the level of Majin Laplace's future vision, it is an absolute ability. It is not prediction, but purposefully causing a result that is intended. Before Shin evolved, her being able to move when time was stopped, was due to the effects of her unique skill cook. Being able to control the law of causality, meant becoming unrivaled, in a world where time is stopped. All cause and effect, so long as they are in a world where time does not flow, Shin's will is given the highest priority in such a world. How unbelievable! For her abilities to be above mine in terms of max energy, Dagruel had many more times the amount Choin had, but Shin was able to stand toe-to-toe against him because of that fact. However, even with Shin's new abilities, it is impossible for her to overpower Dagruel. That was proof of the similitude between Shin and Dagruel. If you were to compare their abilities, Shin is superior. But the two of them are on par with each other if you take the overall power into account. After a number more exchanges, Dagruel noticed this. His face turned bitter, as he glared at Shin. Dagruel has noticed that his abilities were being nullified. That was caused by an ability that was similar to Dagruel's true nature. Which was why they rejected each other, and both sides were nullified. In this suspended world where all forms of disaster-causing supernatural powers are sealed, Shin and Dagruel lacked the power to deal a decisive blow to either side and were locked in an unending brawl. Attacks which were supposed to ignore defense and cause damage, were being completely evaded so fatal damage is avoided. Both sides nullified the opposition's attacks, and simply consumed their energy. If this went on, in this frozen world, it looked like a scene which would make one think of a never-ending battle. But that balance would be broken in a single moment. That's right, time started moving once more. At that exact moment, Dagruel became certain of his victory. His superpowers which were sealed are now released. What that implied was that he is now able to unleash those superpowers which gave him the nickname Earthquake. Dagruel releases a massive all-range attack onto Shin. They were equal in the stopped world due to her abilities, but things are different now that the laws of physics are back in motion. The number of rules to control exponentially increased, which created many more results from cause and effect. Complete predictions and phenomena control has become more difficult to accomplish. That was already a feat, when the opponent was on equal footing. As per Felder's warning, Shin's only chance at victory was while the stopped world was in effect. The ground quaked, with tremors that made standing up nigh impossible. At the same time, the atmosphere roared as it twisted, and lightning crackled. All of that culminated into the attack onto Shin, assaulting her all at once. With the effect of the absolute ability of ignore defense attached, all for the express purpose of taking Shin's life even with ultimate skill. Tyrannous Lord Susanoo, nullifying all of that was impossible. The overwhelming difference in energy is the biggest wall between you, Shin, and me. Dagruel's inner exclamation did not reach Shin. All of the attacks had the intent to take the target's life. And so, Dagruel, who had total confidence in his victory, chaotic fate 3, opened his eyes in disbelief. Shin has moved in for the counter-attack. Shin understood that she was unable to totally defend against the attack, so she discarded defense, and put in everything she had into offense. The fool! Do you intend to perish? Toward the blade which was swinging upwards in his direction, Dagruel extended his left hand out to nullify it, only to show confusion when that very blade disappeared. Right after, the burning sensation of pain, which he has not felt in a few millennia, reached his brain. Shin's finishing attack slipped through Dagruel's cognizance, and reached his body. However, Shin's body too took the full brunt of the multitude of attacks that were born from Dagruel's superpowers. Even if Shin's body had gone through evolution, this attack was fatal, or should have been. Rebirth, resurrection. A chilling voice reverberated across the battlefield. Shin, who was doomed to perish, was brought back from the abyss of death, by demon lord Rumina's ultimate skill lustful lord Asmodeus. If time is flowing, that means support from Rumina's can be counted on too. With that reasoning, it was Shin's strategic victory. Shin placed her bet on Rumina's reviving her and not retreating. Phew, thank you very much, Demon Lord Rumina's. You blockhead. You totally anticipated me giving a helping hand, didn't you? Of course, I believed in you. Demon Lord Rumina's. Just call me Rumina's. I too, shall address you as Shin from today onwards. Any complaints? No. Not at all, Rumina's. I too, shall think of you as a friend from today onwards. Fun. Do as you like, for Rumina's face was flushed scarlet, even though she said that. The same can be said for Shin when their two faces met, both averted away as though embarrassed. The battlefield's tension in their vicinity loosened. The fighting was still ongoing at the other locations, but with the fall of the head of one side, it affected the morale of both sides in no time at all. Anxiety could be seen in the giant army, which resulted in the defense forces gaining the upper hand. The one-on-one battles between Grawward and Albert, Fen, and Adalman restarted, but the giant side lost much of their earlier momentum. The defeat of their elder brother has probably affected the both of them too. And amongst all of that, quahahaha. A certain someone not reading the mood laughed. It was Feldera. Well done. You did splendidly, Shin. Well done indeed. You went above and beyond what I have predicted. Feldera laughed pleasantly. Rumina's glared at the laughing Feldera. What, you were around? You stupid lizard, evil dragon, 5. And spat her piece. Feldera was spooked for a moment, he then puffed up his chest as he pulled himself together. Of course I was worried for the whole lot of you, so I was watching over everyone. He said that as though he wanted to be thanked for it, but there was no change in Rumina's icy cold attitude to him. But, it was the truth that he did help out, albeit in the shadows. Fact was, while the suspended world was in effect, the beings that were responsible for suppressing Grawward and Fen, his clone that was in charge of Fen, sent out distress calls multiple times, but they were ignored. At that time, much of his energy was being borrowed by Shin, so he didn't have much to spare were none other than Feldera's parallel existences. Despite that, it's not like he can proudly say that now, considering the current mood, so Feldera was at a loss for words. He broke out in cold sweat, before Rumina's devilish heterochromia gold and silver eyes, words were unable to exit from his mouth. Gunuwa. Why, am I being treated like a villain? You couldn't really blame him for getting slightly teary-eyed. So, what have you come here for? Everything is more or less wrapped up. To Rumina's cold words, Feldera felt like running away. But, the one who saves Feldera from his predicament, was Dagruel, who should have been defeated by Shin. Foo ha 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 ha. It has been quite the few millennia, since my knees have made contact with the ground. More so, the feat of getting blood to flow from me, there have been none except Veldanava himself. Shin, you have every right to be proud. Dagruel got back up, as he said that. The blood flowing down from his head showed no sign of stopping due to the effects of Shin's ability. Despite that, Dagruel's aura only increased in vigor. Humph. Still standing as expected of Dagruel. Shin, take a breather where you are. As I thought, I'm the only one who would be able to be his opponent. Feldera advanced, towards where Dagruel was. And you should revert to your original form. Let us conclude this battle, with everything we got. He grandly exclaims. Dagruel nods, Fu. Dragon and Titan, let me show you which is greater. Don't you hold back now, Feldera. Grawward, Fen, come to me. Now is the time, for us to show our real power. He bellows, in response to Feldera. His body releases an overpowering aura. In addition to a strange atmosphere. Utterly oppressed by the pressure, Shin and Ko were unable to say anything at all. Feldera glanced to Shin and Ko. Shin, when the battle begins, you should put everything you have into defense. Adalman and Albert too, everyone need to pour everything to maintaining the barrier. Better not lose focus, or all of you will get dragged in and get blown. Feldera spoke as though as stating fact, like everything was already decided. But, to his serious tone, Shin and Ko, not even Ruminas refuted him. Feldera continued speaking. Dagura, Ryura and Deborah, pay attention to what you three are about to witness. I am going to kill your father. Watch the battle, and burn everything that happens into your eyes. What's about to happen, is a battle of myths. All of you are witnesses to this battle. Feldera's subtlety finished speaking. The three brothers were dumbfounded, unlike their usual selves. However, they seemed to have understood that something extraordinary is about to happen. Understood, Feldera-sama. They nodded in unison, to show their acknowledgement. With a satisfied look, Feldera turned to face Dagruel. Over on that side, Dagruel and his brothers have finished their preparations too. Seal open, Trinity, 3 in one body. With Dagruel's roar, the ancient seal was broken. The brothers Dagruel, Grawward, and Fen, were enveloped in a dazzling light. This is, the second coming of the destruction god from the age of myths. Clad in unimaginable amounts of energy, Ashura 6 of the Titan manifested. Shin and Ko understood immediately in one glance, that Titan is not something any of them can match. All except the most powerful of beings, a true dragon, who was before them. Quahahaha. Is that form are your true visage? Dagruel. Very well. I shall take you on with everything I have. Feldera transformed into his dragon mode. And so, the battle of myths, between two supernatural beings begins. Meanwhile. Oh, I'm so glad. Here I was worried that I wouldn't get my turn. No one would ever guess that this was what Feldera was really thinking of at that moment.